you guys, welcome back to Rocket City Yardstead. So this morning I went out and I picked a bunch of flowers while it was still nice and cool. And then I just set them to the side while I did some things I needed to do. As you can see, they're still really long and they need to be all trimmed down to be a pretty bouquet. But it's the time of the week where I'm ready to replace last week's bouquet because it's looking pretty sad. So I thought I'd bring you guys along and we could make a bouquet together. The first thing I like to do is make sure I have fresh water in my jar for my flowers. And then I like to hold my flowers to the jar and see just how tall I want them. Now, I won't prune them all completely down, but I do like to trim them pretty close. I don't know if this is true or not. If you're watching this and you know, I read one time that you should prune your flowers under running water. So I've been doing that for years, and I don't know how important that actually is or not, but my bouquets stay nice for a good while. So I've just kind of assumed that there's something to it. I like to leave these parsley flowers a little tall, so that they stick out. I'm a big fan of using herbs as fillers in my bouquets. I just think they're really pretty. I'll just prune a little bit off of that one. I'll end up with less. Once I get all of these pruned down to shorter sizes, then we can come back and finagle things a little bit. One of the things I love to add to my bouquets is basil. I love these spikes of flowers that they get. And this basil in particular from Baker Creek, I got as a free seed pack with one of my orders. It's called Blue Spice Basil. And it is just the most beautiful smell. I don't think the zinnias actually have any smell. And so it's nice to have something that lends a beautiful aroma to your bouquets. But on these basils, the thing I like to do is pull off all these leaves so they're not down in the water. And then it can be added to the bouquet. So we have this nice stem without any leaves on it. Also, if you have watched my little short about my bouquets, then you will have seen that I like to add herbs into them. And for a while, I had chive blossoms that I could put in my bouquets. I was putting cilantro flowers in my bouquets. I was using the flowers off of my onions that had bolted for bouquets. And right now, I have parsley flowers from some parsley in my butterfly garden that is on its second year. If you don't know, parsley is a biennial, and so its second year, it goes to flower. And these just work as a nice little extra filler in the bouquets. I didn't realize, but it actually brought a zinnia in that still has all its leaves on it. So for these, you don't want leaves down in the water. And so I just pull them all off. Pinch, maybe a more accurate word. But there we go. One de-leaved zinnia. Now that my flowers have all had a first trim, I like to just kind of try and arrange them in the jar. I like to have them at different heights so that they can, fill out this area. But you guys, I am by no means any kind of master bouquet maker. That's part of the point of this video, is if you have pretty flowers in your garden, they're going to be pretty, even if you don't really know what you're doing, putting them in a jar. But I did want to show you guys. I love these salmon zinnias that I got. I think they were called Oklahoma salmon. They're so pretty. And this zinnia, this was actually a volunteer from last year. And I did not have a zinnia that looked like this. So it must have been cross-pollinated, which is pretty amazing because I just think it's beautiful. Some of my petals have gotten a little bent, but that's okay. This is one of the Queen Lime Red zinnias, also incredibly beautiful. I'm really happy I grew those. Another thing, if you have cosmos and zinnias in your garden, you are never going to be without cosmos and zinnias. There will always be volunteers. These are the first cosmos I have blooming, and they are growing sort of in an inappropriate place, but I couldn't bring myself to pull them because I love volunteers. So we'll just keep adding our flowers. I also like to try and spread them out. So like I have 2 of these. I actually think I have 3 of those. And so I like to have them on opposite sides of the bouquet. And then once we have all of these in here, we can decide if some things need to be trimmed. So there are lower things and taller things, which I'm looking at this and I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to do some more trimming. But I don't mind. It's something I do once a week. And then I get to look at a pretty bouquet of flowers. It doesn't cost me a whole bunch of money at the grocery store. Plus, there's the fulfillment of knowing that I grew them in my garden. That is worth a whole lot, I think. These Cinderella peach zinnias, they just have not disappointed me. They are just so beautiful. I can tell you right now, I'm definitely going to need to trim some of these down, but that's okay. But can you see there that pretty purple basil? It just adds a little something to the bouquet, I think. And the blue spice basil smells so good. Let those little spikes stick up. And we'll put our parsley flowers down in here as well. So I'm going to bring you guys down more to eye level so you can see it, and we will make some decisions about what needs to be trimmed shorter to make it a little bit more even and rounded on the bouquet. I don't know how well you guys can tell, but a lot of my flowers are right at the same height. So I feel like some of these need to be trimmed a little bit shorter. So for instance, this little Cinderella peach, I'm gonna trim off maybe an inch and then stick it back in here. And then we have some flowers a little bit lower, which I like. Also, sometimes I just decide they need to be in a totally different place, which is what I'm gonna do with this cactus zinnia. There we go. I think I'm gonna trim this guy down a bit and throw the stem on the floor where I'll have to search for it later. No big deal though. I think this flower could use a little bit of a trim as well. I don't know if you guys have realized yet, if you're not super familiar with flowers, but all of this variety in here, and most of the flowers are zinnias. They're just different varieties. And I can't even begin to tell you how easy zinnias are to grow. They're very drought tolerant and they're just beautiful. The pollinators love them. They are absolutely one of my favorite flowers to grow. And so I just bought a whole bunch of different kinds of zinnias so that my bouquets would have some visual interest. So here on this side, you can see where I've trimmed those couple of flowers down to make them shorter, and it just makes the bouquet look a little bit fuller. I do see some more on this side that I would like to trim. See if I can tuck this guy in a little bit differently. So he stands up a little bit better. My poor cosmos, one of them has lost so many petals. They're really tender, so be careful with them. I'm not doing the greatest job of that. But there we have it. A beautiful bouquet that I get to enjoy for the week, all out of the garden. Some of it planned and some of it just bonus, like the parsley flowers. But if you have ever considered growing flowers and you're not, you definitely should. If you live somewhere like me where you have a long growing season, it's the last day of June today. I'm not sure exactly when this video will go up, but in the next week or two. And you still have time. You could get a pack of zinnia seeds anywhere you can buy seeds, and you still have time. You could start flowers, and in just a month or two, you would be able to be picking beautiful bouquets out of your garden. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you think about growing flowers if you never have before. And thanks for joining me. Bye.